All right, guys, so here we are again. Those of you who are in my class have already been made aware of who Leonardo da Vinci is. We're going to make a piece of artwork based on him, but one of the main goals of this, I should say, is for us to learn how to set up a drawing, a more complex drawing, using basic shapes like squares, rectangles, lines, that kind of thing. It doesn't need to make it more complex than it needs to be, but it helps us figure out where everything's sitting before we start really diving in, because I know it can be a little bit overwhelming thinking about how you're going to draw something that's more complex. So we want to determine the size and proportions, but here we are. We're at the Pixel Art website. Remember, it's pixilart.com. Whenever you get there, remember, we're not concerned with the create account option, and we're also not concerned with the start. Well, we are concerned with the start drawing option, I should say. So when you click that, we are going to go to New Drawing. Now, whenever you get to New Drawing, we want our width to be 100. We want our height to be 100. Don't let it be any bigger, otherwise it's hard for you to make changes. Don't let it be any smaller, otherwise it'll be hard for you to kind of create the detail that you want. So when you get 100 by 100, click New Drawing and click OK. Now here we are again. Remember, the gray and white squares are a representation of a transparent background, meaning that there's nothing there, there's no colors, there's no lines, there's no anything. So first thing I'm going to do, since we're doing a animation dealing with the Mona Lisa, is that we are going to find a picture of the Mona Lisa. So some of you who've had me saw it in the presentation or the slides or so forth, but what I'm going to do is just go to a separate tab. I'm going to type in Mona Lisa. Whenever I do that, it's going to bring up some images for me. I'm just going to click the one that looks the most like, the one that I've seen a lot, which one of us are all familiar with, whether we care about the Mona Lisa or not. We have seen it in some capacity. Now I want to make this a little smaller, just so it's big enough for me to be able to see here. Let's slide this out to the right. Okay, so we're good there. I got my image, and I want to take my window here, and let's slide this over to the left. So now I have a view of my canvas, which I'm drawing on, and I also have a view of the Mona Lisa, so I can draw from that. That way, whenever I click on each individual window, I don't have one disappearing, because if this one's a little bit bigger, right, let's say I make my pixel art window a little larger or something. Let's say I make this bigger, right? It's going to take up, if I'm switching back and forth between windows, which one is active, right? So we don't want that to happen to us. We want to have them both opened. That way we can easily see them, and we want to be able to see them clearly. So let's take this. Again, I'm going to move this slider this way. That way I can still get a clearer view of it, right? I got the Mona Lisa here. So how do I make a complex image like this in pixel art? Now, it seems a little bit overwhelming for some of you. So here's how I do these kind of things, and what I want you guys to really focus on with this one little assignment. And yours may be, a little bit, maybe not be as good as mine, or it may be better than mine. It doesn't really matter. It depends on how much time you spend on it, really. So to say that, let's say I want to figure out where her head and stuff is sitting. So my canvas shape is a little bit different size and shape than what we've got going on over here, which is okay. So I may not have all the room to put everything in, but that's okay with me. So to start off, I'm going to use my square tool, which again is over here on the left. I'm going to figure out where that head sits. So I'm just going to use a square for the head, right? So it sits like there. Then I want to figure out where her shoulders are sitting. So I'm going to use a square to figure out where her shoulders are sitting. And then maybe one for her neck, right? And then I'll maybe want to use my line tool over here to figure out where her hair is sitting. So I'm just going to draw, clicking and dragging around using the line tool. So right now she's looking a little crazy, kind of wild looking. Her hair's there. Maybe I want to put a line for where her eye is. So one eye's here. The other eye's here. I want to use a rectangle to create where her nose is. I want to use a line to create where her mouth is. And then maybe I'm using my line tool to create the other details. She has this kind of like drape over her shoulder. So I'm just going to use this line tool to go up, over, right. And then maybe I can see her hand and arm down here. I can't fit all that in, but if I need to, then I can. Then I see another one here, and then I can use my line tool to figure out, okay, she has another hand that's laying over top of that one here. She has a shoulder. Again, I'm just using my line tools to kind of figure out where things are sitting. So now once I know where this is, right, let's say I can see her face, and I want to create this. This looks pretty wild. It's all over the place. So, but I'm just using this as a foundation to build the rest of my drawing on top of. So kind of something I would do is like, I'm going to come in here now, make this look more like her eye. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, make this look more like her eye. So I'm figuring out where things are sitting. Remember, you can zoom in and zoom out. I don't know if I've said that before to you, but if you haven't noticed that, up here in the top right, you can use the zoom in option, right? This little magnifying glass, you can use the zoom out option and it will zoom out for you. It just makes it easier for you to place pixels if you can do that. You can also scroll forward with your mouse wheel. You can also scroll back with your mouse wheel. And if you have a trackpad, you can pull back on the mouse pad and it'll zoom in. And you can push forward with the mouse pad or zoom in. And it may be the opposite for you depending on what your settings are on your computer. So I have the shape. like I'll even come in here and like just change the shape of the nose now. So we have more of the nostril showing. So let's bring this down a little bit, right? So then I'm gonna come in here with my eraser and I can erase pieces and parts. So I think you guys are starting to understand already how I'm using this to set up the foundation for. So maybe her eyebrow is there, her other eyebrow is there. All right, so we got a face all set up now. Her jaw isn't a square, so let's make it, more like this. Using my line tool again, just clicking and dragging. The pencil tool is a little bit out of control for me, so I don't tend to use that often. I like to use the line tool. It just gives me a little bit more control over what I'm doing. So let's get rid of this line. But that's where her hair is, so I'm going to draw a line down. Let's draw. Again, I'm just using my line tool. Then erasing this part here. I don't need these lines that are overlapping over top of her neck and stuff like that. So going through there, let's get rid of this. I'm not going to see a line through her hair because her hair is in front of that. Now, her hair's a little wild up here, so let's make an adjustment to that. So I'm going to use my pencil tool, and then let's erase that part. I'm going to fix this because it's bothering me a little bit. And we're going to put that right in there. So her hairline is not totally square like this either, so let's make a change to that. So after I get done with this face part, I'll show you guys how to lay in some basic colors, and after that I have a time lapse that I recorded. However, the first time I did this, I forgot to save the beginning part of this video. So this is actually my second time recording this portion. So the image may not be used like as a total basis foundation, but you guys are going to get the gist of what's happening here. So right, I've got my basis all set up. This is kind of crazy looking down here. So let's chop this out of here. All right, so we've got our head set up, and I don't like this overlapping on her hair. So I'm just going to erase all that out of there as well. Okay, so this is kind of hideous, but we will make the changes we need to make later on. So her shirt is not quite that low. It's going to be a little bit more like, I don't know, it's about here, I suppose, and it kind of curves up. So I could get into more detail about that, but I am actually going to just stop here. That way we can start talking about how to use colors and stuff like that. So I have these closed off shapes. I'm going to go over to my fill tool, bucket tool. I'm going to close in stuff just like this. So I have this line here that's kind of bothering me. So let's cover that up. Now, for those of you, I'm going to say this in the end of the video too, but if you need a skin color, right here where it says default colors, if you'll click that and go to skin tones, there's a lot of options here for you. I'm just going to choose this one because I feel like it's the closest to what I'm looking for. It's a little yellow, kind of like it is in the picture. I'm actually going to go over top of this because her neck is not separate from her body, like it's been decapitated or something. So then we have this kind of crazy color here. That's actually where her hair is, and it's a lot darker back there. So I'm going to click this skin tones option. Let's go back to default colors. I'm going to say this again in the end of the video. If you want to make a color that's slightly darker, right now I have this kind of like creamy brown color selected, almost like milk chocolate looking. Select the color. I'm going to go to add color, and we get this slider. I can move this slider down. This is the color you're starting with. This is the color you're going to end up with. If I move that slider down, then it's going to give me that darker brown. I'm going to click select color. Now it's already selected for me over here. If you're wondering where it's gone on your palette, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it's going to be down here. I'm going to take that. Let's fill that in. So I'm going to do the same thing if I wanted to add shades and that kind of stuff. So I have this skin color. Let's go a little bit darker. And then maybe I have a shade right underneath her neck and on her face. So again, I'm using my line tool to draw those things in there. All right, so we got a shade underneath her neck. She's got some shade on the side of her face as well. So is there some around her eyes? So what I'm doing is kind of blocking in the basic areas where that color is going to sit. Instead of me sitting there coloring it all in, I'm just filling it in as long as it's a closed shape, right? Save myself lots of time that way. So I kind of jacked it up there. Let's fix that. She has some shade on the bottom of her nose, underneath here. Her eyes right now, let's just make them white. So she look kind of crazy, but that's okay. So let's zoom out. Okie dokie. So you guys can kind of see how things are coming together here. So like I said, I have a time lapse set up where I go in a lot more depth, and my image maybe looks a little bit better in terms of getting started off. But I just want to give you guys those pointers in getting started. Doing the background and that kind of stuff, I would just keep it simple. Please wait till the very end to do the background. You'll save yourself a lot of time having to erase and draw things. I wouldn't even get that specific. I would just do general shapes or make it all sky blue or something when it's all said and done with. So I'm going to stop at this point. I'll show you guys the time-lapse thing that I kind of started on from the last one. Like I said, it was a different one that I recorded because I deleted this recording of this part initially. But All right, I'll see you guys after the time lapse, and we'll have another short little conversation, and I'll talk about how to save your work. Okay, see you then. All right, so we have made it through that part. I'm actually going to move this image now. So now I have my Mona Lisa portrait here. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it's good enough for me. Maybe I want to use my line tool to add a few more extra little touches down here at the bottom, um, just to add a little bit of extra shade before I start animating things. So I've got my Mona Lisa picture all finished up. Like I said, it's not my best piece of art I've ever created, but that's okay. I'm just trying to get through this so you guys can get a good idea of how you need to start going on this. My expectation is not that yours looks just like mine or is as good as mine or is, maybe yours is better than mine is in the time that we have. That's totally fine. But let's say you've got your Mona Lisa image all set up. It's all good to go. And it looks something like this, hopefully. Now, we talked earlier in the video about how to block off your features so you can make sure that things are the right size and proportion. So we started with that and we started building things on top of that. Most of the time, whenever I was drawing lines, I was using my line tool, which is this up here in the top left-hand corner of the screen. I was not using my pencil tool. The reason why is I feel like I don't have as much control over my pencil tool as lines are a little more crazy and sporadic. And also you guys will notice as I was zooming in, right, using the zoom in tool up here, and I was zooming out a lot along the way. So to say that, after I'd set up my foundation, I was going all over the place, filling in colors and that kind of thing. Now, also, you guys saw me change colors slightly or manipulate colors, create my own colors along the way, and so forth. Now, how I did that is what I did start off with, I would select a color that I thought was kind of near what I wanted. And then down here on the bottom right, I would click Add Color. Now, we talked about in the pixel art intro how to do this. And again, I'm just describing it again for you just in case you missed it in that. So I selected the color I wanted right down here, and I went to Add Color. After I clicked Add Color, I just moved this slider around. I can move it up, down. You can notice it's lighter up here on the left. It's darker down here on the right, gets closer to black. And all this stuff is in between that. I can also change this slider. So you'll notice I have this kind of rainbow slide here. Right now, the little arrows are sitting on this kind of tealish color. If I move that, you guys will notice how this color changes, right? So let's let me change the hue, which hue is just the actual color itself. So after I've done that, like say maybe I want this color, I'm going to click Select Color. And then now I have it over here to use, but it's also way down here in the bottom of my palette that I can pick from, again, if I can't find that. Also, you guys maybe saw me using or trying to figure out how to use a skin tone. Some of you guys may try to use oranges and reds and stuff. Over here where it says default colors, I actually have clicked that. And there's a little palette underneath that says skin tones. Whenever you click that, there's a lot of options here for you to be able to choose from whenever you're doing that. So I've already talked a little bit about the animation portions of this in a previous video. So for this one, I'm not going to get too much in detail about the basics of it as much as I'm just going to show you how to animate this image. So if we go down here in the bottom left where it says GIF frames, right? I click that. I've got my image brought up. This is my first frame of animation. What I want to do after that is I want to click the copy frame button, which is this one right here. Don't click add frame because you'll end up with a blank frame. So do not click add frame. Say it again. Do not click add frame. What you want to do is just copy your frame. So now I have frame 1, which is the same image as frame 2. Now, what I want to do with this image is just make the Mona Lisa look this direction and then look back this direction. So all I have to do is just change the location of where the pupils of her eyes are. So let's do that. In the first one, they're sitting here in my second frame. I'm going to zoom into this so I have a little bit more control. I'm going to take my select tool. I'm just going to select that part of the eye, and I'm going to slide it this direction. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Select that part of the eye. Again, if you don't know how to use a select tool, you just click and drag around things. I have a whole video on that by itself, how to use that. If you're confused about that, then do that. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to slide it this way a little bit. Now that space that I've left behind, what I want to do is I want to fill that in white. That way it doesn't look as insane, right? So in frame 1, her eyes like this. Frame 2, her eyes like this. If I now hit preview, right, her eyes are just skipping back and forth. Looks a little crazy. So we want to continue to move her eyes to the left. So we want to go here. We want to copy the frame. So now we have 1, 2, and frame 2 and 3 are the exact same. So then we're going to zoom back in. I've got my select tool selected. I'm then going to click and drag around that. I'm going to move this 1 pixel to the left. Or maybe for you it's more, just depending. So clicking that to the left. So then now I'm going to fill in that space white. So now let's zoom back out, right? So now she's kind of looking this direction. So if I look at my frames, go down here in the bottom where it says GIF frames again. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to make another one, and we'll see how far we get with this one. I think this should be the last one that we have to add. So then I'm going to click copy frame. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So for our 4th one, we're going to move them just again. So with my select tool, I'm going to click and grab this. So let's get around this real quick. So I'll grab that. I'm going to move it just a little bit to the left. Click and drag around this. I want to grab a little bit different spot. Click and drag around this. Move it just to the left. The space that we've left behind, we are now filling that in white. So now if I go in here, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4. Let's preview that, right? So now her eyes are going to the left and they're skipping back to the right. So it looks a little crazy. We want to have them come back to the right. So it looks like it's going to the left and they're going to the right. Right now they're just going this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. So let's have them come back slowly. Now we don't have to go down here and redraw all this stuff. We don't have to go and do the copy and select thing. All we're going to do, so I have frame 1, right? I have frame 2, I have frame 3, and I have frame 4. We talked about this in our previous animation with making the face get bigger and smaller, and also making the mouth open and close. So I'm going to go, right now I'm at frame 4, right? I have this blue selected, that's my cursor. It's down here at the bottom if you guys can't see that. I'm going to go to frame 3, right? So I want to take this, and now I'm going to click copy frame. So now I have 2 of the exact same frame back to back. If I'm hovering over them, you guys can see my cursor down here. They're the exact same. I'm going to take a copy of it, so one of these 2, and I'm going to use my move frame right tool. So right here, this little arrow, right? I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to click it to the right 1 time. So now that's at the end of my animation. So now if I look at this, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, and frame 5. So you'll notice that these 2 frames are now the same, but that one's at the end. So if I preview this now, right, her eyes are coming back a little bit. They're looking a little less choppy. So we want to do this one more time to kind of finish this up. So this time, instead of selecting frame 3 to copy, we're going to go 1 frame before that because you already copied this one once. We want to go to frame 2. With frame 2 selected, we're doing the exact same thing. So I have frame 2 selected right now at the blue little part selected. I'm going to click copy frame. So these 2 are the same, right? So what I'm going to do is take that move tool, move frame right here, right, this little arrow with this frame 3 selected or frame 2, depending which whenever you decide, and then click it a bunch of times until it's all the way at the end. So now you should have 6 frames. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now if I preview that, right, her eyes are moving back and forth, left to right, slowly. Now, if you want to add some more personality to this because you understand the animation parts of this, then that's totally fine. I've already talked about how to save and submit your work, but I'll go over that briefly here at the end. I will not talk about how to submit your work because not everybody who's viewing this is submitting their work to me on Canvas. So to say that, this is how you make that animation happen pretty smoothly. So maybe I want to come in here and I want to make her little smile just kind of go up a little bit whenever it's all the way over here at the left. So I'm just going to add that detail. This is not required of you, but if you want to make it have them a little more pizzazz and whatever, then that's really up to you as an individual. So let's see what that looks like with those little pixels added. Okay, not quite smooth enough. So I'm going to go in my next. Let's go in the frame before that, and I want to add a little bit of extra here. Let's see what that looks like. Meh, I'm not the biggest fan of that, so let's just leave it out. And maybe we can make her mouth open. Let's see what that looks like for us. Preview. Okay, so it's opening a little bit, so maybe I can make a little change where her mouth stays open a little longer. I want to make sure these 2 look the same. All right, let's preview that. Okay, I like that. I'll leave it just like that. So now I want to save my work. So this is a finished animation. I'll again show you how to save your work as a unfinished piece because probably along the way you want to take a break. So in the top right hand corner of the screen, I'm going to click Save Drawing. This is again, if I want to save it for later, I'm not done. I'm going to go to Save As .pixel. Whenever I click that, I'll just type in the name I want to, and it should save it on your Google Drive. Now, that's if you want to save it for later. However, if you want to download this before you submit it to me, you're going to go to the download.png.gif option. Underneath the GIF download section where it says height 100 and width 100 or whatever, we want that to change to 500 by 500. So we're going to do the size out here, make this 500x 500. So with that selected, I'm not going to click download. And it'll have a little percentage over here, and it'll be downloaded on your Google Drive, and it'll save over here. You can see pixel GIF drawing .gif. Yours won't have 68 after it. It'll say like probably 1 or 2 or 3, just depending on how many you've downloaded. I have a lot just because I've done this demo a lot for other students in the past. So that's how you download your work. If you want to know how to submit your work, that's its own video for my students that's available for them to look at on Canvas. So okie dokie, this is the end of this video. Make sure you submit that to me. That way I can give you a grade for it. If you have any confusion about it, just go back to other points in the video. And if you're confused about the tools that I'm using along the way, then please direct yourself to the other videos and watch those first before you watch this one. That way you have a clear idea of how everything works. So yeah, that's it. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day.